everybody, it's SMG Viewers Comments episode number 178. Hope you're going to have an amazing weekend. Let's get right to it.
Hey Glenn, not sure if this has been asked before, but what sample rate do you use when recording? I always hear people talking about 192 kilohertz, but others say 48 or even 44.1 is just fine, and that 192 is not necessary. What's your opinion on that?
Well, oh boy, this is a real can of worms. I've seen some massive debates go on audio forums about this and just go stretch on and on and on and on forever about how some people can hear a difference, some people can't. Basically, what the added sample rate gives you is a frequency response well beyond your hearing. The question remains whether or not those frequencies way the hell up those there create overtones in what you hear in your normal spectrum. So it's a real tough one. There's no easy answer. The only thing I would say is, what is your target audience? Are you making music for Spotify and Google Play and YouTube? Then don't worry about having ultra high sample rates. If you're doing an audiophile record, oh yes, then by all means go with the 192 kilohertz sample rate or whatever the hell it is that high. I think I've only ever done one high resolution record, and that was maybe 10 years ago. I think we did that at 88.2. And I don't know, it might have helped me mix better. Then again, maybe not. But everything winds up at 44.1 or 48 kilohertz eventually anyway, so don't worry about it too much. Everything that you're going to be hearing on the web and in MP3 format and all that sort of thing, yes, that's going to be at a much lower resolution. So you really need to ask yourself, is it going to be worth the hassle? Because you're going to need extra processing power, and don't forget your latency increases as well. So ask yourself this, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Hey Glenn, I had a question about recording vocals. I set up my home studio on a bit of a budget and I'm using a Shure SM58 for vocals. I've been fairly happy with the results after some compression and EQ, but I was curious if you have another inexpensive vocal mic you would recommend. Thank you for all you do. New subscriber here, but I'm catching up and loving all the vids.
Well, hey there, Ruins of Truth. Thanks for asking. The easy answer to that question is the Lewitt LCT 240 Pro. This goes for about 150 US, I believe. The Lewitt stuff is fantastic. This is like a medium diaphragm condenser mic. It's not a large diaphragm, but this will definitely do the trick. This will work for singing and for voiceover and a whole bunch of other things. It's also killer as a drum overhead. Price-wise, yeah, it's kind of hard to beat this kind of clarity for such little money. Yeah, generally, yeah. If you can afford a Lewitt, go get one. You definitely won't regret it.
Absolutely in love with SMG. Learned more in the past 3 weeks of watching your vids than a whole module of my uni degree recording. Honestly, keep up the amazing work. My one query that I have is, do you make templates on your DAW for songwriting and recording? I use Studio One and I've started making some cool templates with effects and contact in place, but I worry that it's going to make me too consistent.
That's a great point. Yes, I use templates all the time, but I find myself adjusting depending on who's playing what. I'll make drum recording templates and then, make adjustments based on the drummer. Templates are a great way to remain consistent from song to song on a project, but yeah, switching things up from artist to artist might be a real good idea. Absolutely nothing wrong with templates, but like with anything, with all this new amazing recording technology we have, abusing it will make your music suffer.
Along with the I bought it, I'm using it mentality, I think a lot of adolescent-minded musicians get caught up in the whole my tone is me thing. They think their sound is some sort of personal expression because the people they admire used a certain type of their own gear and that's what they made them sound that way on their records. Honestly, a lot of great records have been made with a guitar player using a different amp far from what they normally use. I've been through this phase as a teen. Honestly, it was all in my head because quite frankly, it wasn't in my hands. So in some ways, it was a defense mechanism. I think there is some sort of fear involved because someone who is playing a Line 6 should be drooling at the idea of using a great amp. Thoughts?
Well, I did have this discussion with my good friend Henning Pauling over at HP42 Studios. If you haven't checked his channel out, please do. He's an awesome dude. And we were debating about, the Spider 5 practice amp. And he's like, well, nobody would ever use that in the studio. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding? Do you know how many kids I've had to talk out of using a Spider in the studio? Oh, but it's my sound. Here's the thing. Nobody's heard you play. Nobody knows what your sound is. You don't even know what your sound is. And I always say this. Okay, well, what do you like? And why don't we plug in and try a few different things and try and find your sound together? Instead of tying my hand behind my back before we even get started, let's start with some quality. Look, I get it. There's some guitar players out there who had some really unique sounds. Dimebag Darrell, Randy Rhoads, Jimi Hendrix, the list is Eddie Van Halen, the list goes on and on and on and on. But all those players were incredible players as well. And there's a big difference between, a kid who knows 3 chords and started a band and a guitar virtuoso. The tone isn't necessarily in the hands any more than it is in changing the strings. And this is the thing, in the studio, you're going to have a lot more control over the tone than the guitar player would like to believe. Changing the tone is quite simple. Move an SM57 about 2 millimeters either way, and you're going to get a very different sound. In my experience, the greatest contributing factor to guitar tone is where the mic is placed on the speaker. Yes, there's a lot of other factors that go in place, but that is the one overwhelming factor more than anything else. Changing out amp heads isn't going to change much. Changing out cabinets will, but changing where the mic goes, oh yeah, that's really going to make a big difference. So when he says, well, this is my sound, well, your sound is what the engineer doesn't tell you is going on.
How about clean guitars or more blues style playing? Try that test.
Okay, John, interesting idea. But you see, this is a metal production channel. What kind of music do you suppose we make on a metal production channel? Right, metal. That's right. So I'm really not interested in clean tones, and I'm certainly not interested in blues guitar tones, because I don't record that kind of fucking music! Fuck's sakes! When I do this stuff, it's in context of metal production. Now, how much is it going to change the sound of a fucking guitar when you change your strings out in a metal context? I don't give a shit how it's going to sound for a blues lead. I want to know how it's going to sound on a crunchy rhythm tone, because that's what I record. That's what my focus is. I always love that. Oh, you got to try it on a blues sound. Why in the fuck would I? What fucking relevance does that have to what I do? Nothing. More than likely, you might be a little bit upset because the test I performed disproved your hypothesis on what changes a guitar sound when it comes to strings.
Could this be because the tone is generated by magnetic induction and not acoustically?
Gee, who'd have thunk it? It's like changing old strings for new strings really didn't have that much bearing on the tone. And I really do appreciate everybody who commented on that video, but that was one of the smarter comments. Believe me. Oh, you did the test wrong. You did the test wrong. No, we didn't do the test fucking wrong. We did the test right because we didn't get what we expected. Now, we did the exact same test on acoustic strings that's coming out on the Ward-Beck M460A demo coming out in a week or two, and we mic'd up an acoustic guitar and the strings were dead. We dropped new strings on it, came to life. Why? Because that's a fucking acoustic instrument. Why didn't it make that big of a difference on an electric guitar? Because it's an electric instrument. It's a closed electric circuit, and new strings are only going to have so much effect on the tone. Sure, when you strum it not plugged in, I'm sure it sounds a whole lot brighter. But does that affect the tone going into the pickups? Not nearly as much as you would think. If you need verification on that, watch this video here. I think that's where that fucking points to. And check out my results because it was quite surprising.
Hey Glenn, could you do a tutorial on how to get the snare sound from your intro track? I am obsessed with that sound.
Hey Jake, quick answer to that question. We used a Steve Smith cast steel snare. Wasn't cheap and was definitely worth it. It was rim shots with a butt end technique. And if you want more information, please check out my series, How to Record Heavy Drums. It's 7 or 8 parts and goes through all the various elements and whatnot, and is a wonderful resource for learning how to record drums. Great question, though. If you haven't checked that out, please do. And check out my How to Record Heavy Guitar series as well. Links are in the description as always.
This comment is unrelated to the video, but I have a question. Should I put myself at risk of being thrown out of my home to go to see my favorite band live, or obey my parents' orders and be a good Christian kid? Cheers from the Baltics, and fuck you, Glenn.
Well, they're family-friendly, Felix. I had to say that about 6 times till I got that right. I'm definitely not qualified to give that question and answers, so I'm going to put it to you guys. I'm going to make a poll question. Should Felix go see his favorite band? Yes or no? You guys let me know. Results from last week's poll. Has metal lost its edge? The overwhelming answer to that was no, you just have to look harder, and I do believe that's valid. So I think we're going to make polls a more common thing here on SMG Viewers Comments. just to see what you guys think, because I really do love hearing from all you guys, and polls are a nice, easy way to make that happen. So yes, should Felix tell his parents to fuck off and go see his concert? And maybe his parents should like understand that, you know, Jesus probably doesn't look very kindly on parents who throw their kids out for, you know, going to see a rock show. I don't know. It doesn't seem very Christian to me, but what do I know? I'm just an atheist.
Soft rubber hockey pucks! Seriously though, my career is in building mechanical systems. We use these to isolate pumps often. They are cheap as chips.
You know, when I was building this place, that's one thing we were thinking about, was maybe floating the floors on hockey pucks. It never came to fruition, but that was definitely something we had in mind. And I keep saying this over and over, guys. If you want a great resource on acoustics, go check out the John Sayers Studio Design Forum. That's where I got the plans to build this place. It's a wonderful resource. There's a great community there, and I can't say enough good things about it. And yes, they were definitely kicking around the hockey pucks idea. So if you've got, like, I don't know, maybe a drum set and you're above people, and or if it's even an electronic drum set and they're bitching and complaining about the noise from the thump, 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 get a couple sheets of plywood and put some hockey pucks underneath. That will acoustically separate that drum set from your floor. That'll work for guitar and bass amps as well. So give that a shot. Hockey pucks are your friend.
Hey Glenn, my band is about to release an album in a few months. We used amp sims and, you know, just did what everyone else does nowadays. But since I'm really noticing how most modern metal albums sound the same to the point where I can't really listen to any new stuff anymore, I'm thinking about getting that late 80s, early 90s raw death metal tone. Less compression and a whole lot more dynamic range for the next album. Do you think that would be a good idea to do these days? Thanks.
Well, it can't hurt. You know, I've always said this. Everybody always asks me, hey, how do we get my band to sound unique? Simple. Turn off auto-tune and use real drums. That will definitely make you sound like yourselves. That's for sure. For your particular case, yeah, I'd say go check out a Marshall valve state. That's probably got exactly the tone you're looking for. Just remember to crank those mids up, because the valve state is pretty freaking scooped. I actually bought one to do a review on, and I'm just kind of running out of time. Again, more details to come next week. I'll be able to explain everything to you. Maybe I'll be able to borrow one in the next couple weeks. Anyway, but yeah, honestly, you know, the whole loudness wars when it comes to music, YouTube's kind of killed the volume wars, in my opinion, and I think that's a good thing. I've had to turn my mixes way down because YouTube will just turn them down for me, and that's really brought dynamic range back, and I really like the sound of the mixes I'm getting these days as opposed to what I was getting 10 years ago. So in a lot of ways, YouTube's been a great thing for music, because now we get to hear the loud parts and the soft parts, which we didn't get to hear before.
Metal can't shock anymore. YouTube, Google, and instant porn have pretty much killed being shocked. Now you have to be talented and original. Much tougher than being scary.
That's a great fucking point. You know, I went to go see Intervals last summer. Sam Donovan, he's one of the guitar players. He's a buddy of mine. Went and checked it out. You know, I heard a lot of good things. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. You know, very creative shit. I went to go see Sarah Longfield. You know, she's not super heavy, and she's very avant-garde, and I thought that was really cool too. So there is a lot of great music being made. I just wish more guys would sing. That's kind of my one wish I would come true. Apparently, I need to start listening to a lot more European bands, because last time I mentioned that, a lot of you European guys were, what the fuck, man? Okay, I promise I will check out some more European bands. The guy from Angra, holy fuck, he's got a hell of a set of pipes on him. So if you haven't listened to Angra, please do. They're fucking great. Anyway, back on the subject of being creative. You know, I wanted to bring this up. Blackie Lawless from Wasp said this. You know, what had happened was he used to go on stage with this codpiece with a Roman candle on the front of it, and he lit it on fire. One day, you know, it fucking backfired on him, and he said it was like getting hit in the balls with a Louisville Slugger. And I guess he was backstage and, you know, taking all his stage gear off and shit, and he looked at his bandmate and said, you know, if we wrote better songs, we wouldn't have to do this. I always thought that was brilliant. So, yes, there's definitely something to be said about stop trying to shock people, just write some better songs. Okay, great idea.
Hi Hi Glenn, got a question for the next one. I hired a mixing engineer to mix a song I recorded somewhere else. Paid up front, set the stems, and while I was away all the time, we live in different cities. He changed things, added or changed instruments because I told him he had absolute freedom and I'd only hear the result. Now, some of the things he did I liked, some I didn't, and told him, you did your job, could you give me the stems so I could change some things what I don't like? He's very reluctant, hasn't offered them yet, and has told me this is normally charged extra. Does everybody work like that in this business?
Well, I can't speak for anyone but myself, but generally when a client asks me for stems, I'm like, okay, great. Normal hourly rate applies because I've got to pull those up, I've got to burn those or dump them onto a USB stick or whatever. That takes time. This is the thing, I don't give away mix data. That is mine and mine alone. If somebody wants the tracks, that's absolutely fine. I'll consolidate and drop those off. No problem. You played them, you have them, you can do what you want with them. But the actual mixing end of it, that's mine. And I'll do with that what I will. And if I've always said this, if you want to see how I mix, check out one of my lessons. And that seems to work out pretty well. So the guy you've got mixing for you, he's not doing anything out of the ordinary, in my opinion. He's probably a little hesitant to give his work away. So, just talk to him. And I'm sure you guys can come to some kind of mutual agreement that benefits the both of you. Good luck, dude.
What do you prefer? A bassist that shreds in every song, a la Billy Sheehan, or a bassist that just plays rhythm of the song, a la Cliff Williams?
I don't think I have a like or dislike of either style. I mean, there's room for Billy Sheehan's, there's room for Cliff Williams and Ian Hills and guys like that who are just rock solid players and they're awesome in their own right. I had this discussion with Andy Sneap a while back, when he took over for Glenn Tipton. He said Ian Hill's the best bass player he's ever played with in his whole life because he's rock fucking solid. So, even though he's not a flashy guy, he's still fucking great in his own way. Music is big enough for all styles of bass playing. All I want to see is the bass player play the song and not look at the guitar player. Where am I? That being said, I love a super great bass player who can really tear it up and be funky and all that kind of shit. There was a band out of Toronto in the late 80s and early 90s called Weirdstone that I was a gigantic fan of. They had this weird late 60s hippie hard rock vibe going on. And they were just absolutely wicked. And the bass player in that band could just tear it up like you wouldn't fucking believe it. Yeah, they were just great. It's too bad nobody ever heard them. What a shame.
Hello there, Glenn. I am curious to know, you don't need to go into full details about two things. First, do you have any sort of situation or event that being fine or positive you can definitely say it contributed to your career? Second, same as first one, however, geared towards the exact opposite. Have you ever had a bad experience that, despite it being negative and harsh, it contributed to your career in one way or another?
That's a fantastic question. We can learn from good experiences, we can learn from bad experiences. To answer the first part of your question, I'd say going to my very first NAMM had the biggest impact on my career ever. I went to my first one in 2015, and I got to meet everybody. I got to meet Ola, I got to meet Fluff, I got to meet Rob Scowen, and just hang out and whatnot. And that was the first time I think I ever went anywhere and I really fit in well with the crowd. And it was just a wonderful experience. We got to meet Guar and just sit in all these seminars and learn about how the business worked and all that kind of shit. And I had a very, very, very important conversation with Rob Scowen about, doing YouTube for real, because I had 27,000 subscribers at that time. And, here I'm going back, 4 years later, I've got more than 10 times that audience. Thank you so much for subscribing. By the way, the channel just hit 290,000 subs tonight. Holy shit. I'm so grateful to each and every one of you. It would be really amazing if I could do 300 by the end of the year. So if you guys could share this video, I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, so yes, positive experience. Go to NAMM if you've ever wanted to go or curious about it. Yes, go. If you have the means, go. It's definitely worth it. As for bad experience and learning from that, I'd say the second Woods of Ypres disc was just a complete and total clusterfuck, and I learned a lot of ways how to not run a session and how to stay the fuck out of a band's internal dealings, because I was kind of stuck in the middle trying to negotiate between various band elements. That's just a situation as an engineer you never want to be involved in. And I definitely learned to get an agreement ahead of time about what is expected as your role and who gets what. that kind of thing. It was a situation where it was like certain band members didn't want other band members getting the mixes, even though they paid for things. So I'm just like, I can't be in the middle of this shit. It was just a horrible situation. And, I walked away from Woods after that. I was just like, no, I'm not working with you guys ever again. It's just not worth the fucking headache. So I was a lot happier when that project was over. Believe me, Dave and I did eventually bury the hatchet eventually. But the whole situation just left a bad taste in my mouth. I just wanted to make records. I didn't want to deal with bullshit. And, so I learned a lot of ways how to fucking get shit straightened out ahead of time so you don't have to deal with bullshit. So if you have a bad experience, make sure you learn something from it. Chances are you won't have the same experience again.
Hi, I'm sorry if you've already answered this question, but what do you think about guitarists who do several takes for each section of a solo when they're in the studio and then assembling the best takes for each part to get the whole thing perfect?
Oh, perfect's a dangerous word, man. Perfect is boring, in my opinion. We've got a lot of perfect records these days. Anyway, one of the most notable solos that have been comped together, and that's the phrase you're looking for, is comping, is when you take several takes and edit them together into a super take. If you listen to the ending solo on Tom Petty's Running Down a Dream, that was about 4 takes comped together, and that just worked really well. See, I'd much rather do a comping thing than an auto-tune and fixing thing, because at least with comping, it was actually played by a musician and not reconstructed by a computer. And editing something together is fine, but when you make the artist do something they're incapable of, that's when the problems start, in my opinion. So yes, comp ahead. Go ahead, do that. You can get some great results that way. I'll usually do that with vocalists. I'll make them sing the song 5 times and just kind of piece the best bits together. And then if we need to tweak anything from there, we will. It's a pretty good system. Works pretty well. Some guys need it, some guys don't. Some guys need a whole lot more takes. But eventually, you can get some great results and not have to resort to, digital fuckery like autotune.
Hey Glenn, really love the channel. Quick question. I seem to be getting a lot more snare out of my overheads than cymbals and overall kit presence. I'm in a small room and use a space pair of AKG C430 mini condensers 46 inches away from my snare. Any helpful tips? Thanks.
Hey Dylan, you're describing a very common situation. A lot of guys have to work in small rooms. Not the end of the world. What you want to do is you want to add a compressor to your overheads and use a very fast attack and fast release. So that way it's going to grab your snare transient and just slam down on that. Start gentle with it, about 4-to-1 ratio, and just start bringing your threshold down till you see the snare attack kind of level out with what the cymbals are doing. Another thing you can do is run a side chain from your snare channel to your overhead channel and just have it clamped down on the overheads when that snare hits. That should help you out a lot as well. Really should do an episode on that. I think I might have something on side chaining and how to mix heavy drums. Check my channel archives for that on one of my tutorials. I'm sure I hit on it at one point or another. Good luck, dude.
I've had the HD 500X since 2013. You can get a good tone from this thing. Unfortunately, you really have to fucking working with it. Living in an apartment type situation, sometimes shit like this is the only way you can play.
Hey, Sean, you know what? In 2013, you were absolutely right. But in 2018, no. There are far better options for getting better tone than a Pod HD. There are some truly great plugins out these days. I really like what's coming from Waves. The PRS Archon is really great. And the Fortin Nameless from Neural DSP, all made sounding extra awesome, courtesy the Lancaster Audio Impulse Response Packs. That's the company I'm involved in. We've been doing some really cool stuff. You can check out my cabinet pack, or you can check out Ulrich Wilds, and he's the guy who did Great Southern Trendkill, all the Deftones stuff, and a bunch of Static X stuff as well. Ulrich's a really good dude, and he gets some absolutely killer guitar tones. Links in the description. You should really check it out.
Hey Glenn, been a sub for over 2 years now and you haven't sold out yet. What's the deal? Aren't all your gear reviewers supposed to sell out within the first year or two? I look forward to your paid Line 6 review in which you tell us how wrong you were and that the Spider is the best studio amp out there.
Well, thank you so much for subscribing for the last 2 years. Grateful to have you on board. I'm grateful for all you guys, honestly. Last year, I was having a discussion with a very good friend of mine who's given me some great advice over the years. And the best advice he ever gave me was this: don't sell out. And I thought that was fucking brilliant, because I've definitely had some big deals thrown at me this year. And for a couple of things, I just couldn't sign off on it. I'm not going to mention names or anything like that because it just wouldn't be cool. They were kind enough to offer me money, and it's just kind of like, I'm sorry, guys, it's not what my show's about. And it hurts sometimes. I mean, like, the money would be great, but it's just not worth it in the long run, because I know a lot of you guys trust my opinion, and I don't want to fuck with that. So if it means not making as much money, you know what? I'm fine with that. But thanks for asking, man. I really appreciate it.
I drive a minivan that seats 7. Nice. Way to shatter my image of Glenn being the coolest guy on YouTube. Right out the fucking window with that then. Ruined my day.
Hey there, Mr. Paul Holmes. Thanks so much for writing. Your cousin John was a legend. Anyway, let me clear a few things up here. Okay, first off, I'm not cool. I learned at a young age that I was never going to be cool. And that's fine. You don't have to be cool to hang out and watch this show or take part in anything like that. No. There's plenty of other cool people out there. This show is for everybody else, for everybody who doesn't fit in or is a little bit different or a little bit weird. I mean, come on, man. Yeah, you're upset because I drive a minivan. I mean, like, what? I've been wearing anime shirts on this show for the last 4 fucking years because I'm cool. I'm literally wearing a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy shirt right now. Trust me, I am not cool. Don't come to my show to learn how to be cool because I am the farthest thing from it. Like I said, though, that's okay. There's lots of people out there who aren't cool as well. You know what? We're just fine not being cool. Because you know what? I'd rather have fun than be cool. All right, everybody, that's it for this episode. I'd just like to thank each and every one of you for watching and subscribing and supporting this show over the last 4 years. You guys have been absolutely magnificent. I've got a major announcement coming out next week. I can't tell anything about right now. Just give it a week, and I hope you guys like what's coming up. It's going to be super cool. Once again, thank you so much. Now get out there and have an amazing weekend. See you later. Hey guys, if you liked the video, be sure to subscribe as I post every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. If you want to learn more about recording, check out one of my tutorials or one of my gear reviews if you want the actual honest truth about a piece of equipment. Till next time, stay metal, my friends.